So it is the case, for example, in my case, that feeling lonely or depressed, or let's say I had a bad interaction with my wife at the time, would make me unhappy and then make me want to binge. It's true that that was true. That was the
Hmm.
case. And it's true that there was this voice of justification that greased the chute and I could slow it down like that. What I didn't know was also true was that things work in the other direction. So if you, let's take anxiety, it's easier to illustrate with.
Okay.
A lot of people will tell me that they feel very anxious and they can't go to sleep without binging. And what they don't, so it's true that the excess food will quell that anxiety for a little while. But what's also true is that if you have that anxiety and then you have the excess food, you're teaching your body to produce more anxiety because you're rewarding by the principles of operant conditioning, you're rewarding. And there are studies with animals, and we look at the physiological correlates of anxiety, like heightened heart rate and perspiration and and breathing and elevated blood pressure. You can even look at galvanic skin response. When you can condition animals to have high blood pressure by giving them a sugar reward every time their blood pressure is elevated. And so what we don't realize is that you feel unhappy and then you go to chocolate, you've actually reinforced your body for feeling unhappy, and it's more likely to produce those unhappy feelings in the future. So it goes both ways. The last thing that the idea of numbing out with food misses is that we're not really going to things that make us numb. We're going to things that give us an artificial high.
Right.
So chocolate is a concentration of sugar and theobromine and caffeine and substances that are not really meant to be presented to the body. I'm not saying it's an evil thing. I think chocolate's a lovely thing for a lot of people.
Yes, so do I. So do I. I agree totally.
But that's different than saying that it's healthy. It's different than saying that it's healthy or natural. And we didn't have chocolate bars on the savannah while we were evolving. And there is this phenomenon of downregulation that occurs if you present that kind of a supersized stimulus to the taste buds over and over again. Your taste buds are no longer as sensitive, and your whole pleasure system is no longer as sensitive to what nature has to offer. So my point is that we're also trying to get a little high with food. It's not just like you don't go to the dentist and they say, I can't numb you out with Novocaine because we're out of Novocaine. I think I'll inject you with chocolate instead.
Right.
It's because there's something else that chocolate is doing for us. There's something else that, chips or pasta or pizza is doing for us than just numbing us out. So I think when you put all those three things together, it's very true that there's an underlying emotional conflict. Like I've had to work on that for my life. Why do I get unhappy like that? Why do I get lonely? Why, I've had to teach myself to socialize more. And, but by the same token, that can take years to really work your way through it. Right. So I encourage that journey. I think it's an important part of the journey.
Right.
But you can disempower some of those other pieces first. If you no longer accept the excuse of, well, I'm just comforting myself, and you say I'm getting high, it starts to become less likely that you're going to indulge with food. Right. If you tell yourself that there's always this voice of justification that you can that you can intervene with and look at the false logic in between the emotion and the action, then you can also make progress like that. So what I found is that it's a multi-pronged approach, and there are a lot of people who don't want to do the emotional work.
No, it's painful.
Yeah.
It's very painful. But I mean, I think if you were to ask people, just a personal opinion, if you ask people, like, do you want to learn, like, do you want some steps you can actually start using to stop binge eating? I think 100% of people are like, absolutely, write it down, give me the plan, give me the book, give me the, give me this podcast, whatever it is. But then if you said, okay, well, do you also want the steps, you want the tools to work through the emotional stuff? I think some of them, let me think about it. I'll get back to you on that one. Yeah. Right now, I want to stop binge eating.
Right. That's true. And so I found there are a bunch of practical steps you can work with.
Okay, well, that's what we want to know. That's what we want to know. What can
Well,
our listeners, those listening, going, this is something because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now shaking their heads and going, this is something I struggle with. I know I do it. I've bought the diet books. I've joined Weight Watchers. I've got the gym membership. I've done all those things that we tend to do, but yet I'm still binge eating. What can I do? What can they start doing today to work towards getting control of that?
yeah. So you have to know when you're about to do it if you want to intervene.
Right.
So you're going to have to take control and define what healthy eating means to you and what binge eating or, bad eating means to you. And I believe that the best way to do that is starting with one simple rule. It could be something you could and would do that doesn't feel too onerous, but which would make a big difference. Mm-hmm. Some people will say, I'll just never go back for seconds. Other people will say, I'll always put my fork down between bites. Some people say, I'll only ever have chocolate on a weekend, or I'll only eat pretzels at a Major League Baseball park, or I'll never consume calories after 8 p.m. So some simple rule that would make a big difference, but it's not the ultimate diet. You're probably not going to lose all your weight this week doing this. You might not lose any weight at all.
Right.
The idea is to just draw a very bright line so you know when you're about to cross it. Mm-hmm. And then you start listening for your inner reptilian brain. You can call it your food monster. You can call it your junkyard dog, mm-hmm. Your food demon, whatever you want to call it. But you listen for it to start trying to convince you to cross the line. And when you hear it starting to try to cross the line, you know that the reptilian brain is active because you came up with this rule through serious forethought and consideration. It's something you really wanted to do. And so now we're going to have to deactivate the reptilian brain and jump up into the neocortex. There are a couple of ways to do that. First of all, you take a breath. And if you can breathe in for shorter than you breathe out, and we like to call these 7-11 breaths.
Right.
So breathe in for a count of 7 and breathe out for a count of 11. Yeah. If you were being chased by a tiger, you wouldn't have time to do that. So you're signaling your body that this is a time of relaxation. There's no emergency here. This is time to rest and digest and really think about what's necessary. There's no emergency famine. There's no tiger chasing us. We can actually think this through. So take a couple of breaths, a couple of 7-11 breaths. I like people to carry around a paper and a pencil or a smartphone with them. And then I want them to ask their reptilian brain, okay, I have this rule. I said that I'm never going to have chocolate during the week again. Why do you want me to have the chocolate even though it's a Wednesday? And I want you to write that down. What does your reptilian brain say is the reason you should have it? Write down all the reasons that it says you should do it. Oh, come on, you can just start tomorrow. Or
I'm wearing blue.
I'm wearing blue. Yeah. Or I didn't have enough for breakfast. I'm really hungry.
Yeah.
And see, the act of writing is an upper brain activity also.
Yes. Right? I think writing is a great tool in so many things. So I'm glad to hear this here.
So you write it down. Then you take another breath, another couple of 7-11 breaths. Then you look at what you wrote down and you say, how is my reptilian brain wrong? How is it lying to me? And it usually wins by providing a half-truth with a bigger lie. So let's take the one we keep harping on. You're not going to gain any weight because you worked out hard enough. It's just as easy to start tomorrow. Yeah. Well, it's probably true that if I had one chocolate bar after a really hard workout, I probably wouldn't gain weight. That's probably true. Is it easier to start tomorrow? Is it going to do any damage? No, it's not, for the reasons that we talked about before. Mm-hmm. And it will also break my spirit. It will make me feel like I can't stick to a plan that I made. And so I'll write this down. I'll write down all the reasons that the reptilian brain is wrong. And we call that refuting. We call that refuting the reptilian brain. Once I've really written that down, I should feel a little bit calmer. Now I've breathed through it. I've deactivated the emergency response system. I've shown the logic that was greasing the chute to be false. Now I want to ask myself, how will keeping the reptilian brain in a cage right now and doing the right thing, how will that make me a happier, better person?